What's up everybody, it's me Zombie, and today I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna finish my Jedi costume. I just have some finishing touches which I think are gonna be really cool, and one of those includes a robot arm. For inspiration for my robot arm, I'm just looking at droids from the Star Wars universe and ended up drawing from C-3PO and Luke Skywalker's robotic arm. You can see here that I'm using a tactical glove for the base of my arm. I really like tactical gloves for making robotic hands because they're sturdy and they have some plastic on them. This makes it easy to glue foam onto, and it makes sure that it holds up to all the super glue that I put on it. I honestly didn't start out with a pattern or anything, I just started cutting straight onto foam. I knew the look that I was kind of looking for and just started cutting out little pieces. I did want to add a lot of recessed pieces to make it look like there are wires exposed from inside of the arm, or little bits of machinery and cool stuff, and it really helped add depth to my hand too. I made the recessed pieces by cutting out my desired piece. I did both rectangles and circles, and I glued that same piece that I cut out to the back of the hand. And this allowed me some space to add little wire details inside. For the hand and arm, I am adding these foam pieces on with super glue. I just like using super glue on the smaller projects because it's kind of easier for me to maneuver and use. Using super glue does mean you will inevitably be glued to something at some point, so prepare for that. What's cool about having a custom design is that you're not following any kind of reference picture, and you kind of have the freedom to do whatever you want, so I really had a lot of fun making this. I used the same recessed foam technique for my circle and just added some little details on top of that too. And I like trying on my glove periodically as I add pieces just to make sure that I have some flexibility and everything looks how I want it to look. Here I'm using 7mm foam and 3mm foam, but you can use different thicknesses as you like. I'm making some finger caps for my robot hand by gluing two pieces of semicircles together out of foam, and then just trying them on each finger just to make sure they fit correctly. What's nice about this is you can always make adjustments and re-glue as needed. I used the same creative technique on the arm by adding a couple of recessed pieces and some of the same lines that appear on the glove. This arm is all about recessed pieces, because why not? Recessed pieces are fun. I really wanted it to look like a bunch of wires and machinery were exposed from inside of the arm. Once all the pieces are glued in, I'm gonna try it on. Even with the recessed pieces, it was a bit of a snug fit, so in the future I will adjust to make this a little bit bigger if I'm adding recessed pieces on the inside, but overall it was pretty comfortable and it ended up looking pretty okay too. I'm just gonna try on the entire arm before I heat treat it with a heat gun and then put Plasti Dip on it just to make sure that everything looks exactly how I want it to. Hey, it looks pretty cool. With this glove I don't have a crazy amount of flexibility, but I'll at least be able to hold a lightsaber. And maybe a cup, on a good day. After letting a couple coats of Plasti Dip dry on my arm, I'm adding some sprayable Tamiya paint in gunmetal. I love this color, it's really true to the Star Wars universe, and it looks awesome. After my paint is all dry, I'm gonna start weathering it with black acrylic paint. For a more detailed weathering tutorial, I'm going to link one of my videos right down below, but for my arm here, I'm just using my acrylic paint and some smaller paint brushes to push some black paint into all the creases where I think dirt has accumulated. After my black is applied, I'm going to use some brown and sienna to make it look like some dirt has stuck to it too. Weathering is my favorite part. I think it helps the prop look like it's lived in, and it just ties everything together. Now I'm going in with a Q-tip and a teeny tiny bit of Rub and Buff squished onto the very end. I'm just doing this to make it look like there's been some wear and tear, some metal transfer, and it makes it look more interesting. It really helps all these foam lines pop. I usually apply this to some of the edges, but I will add little scratches here and there too. Doing this on the hand makes the biggest difference. There's lots of smaller details here, and you can really tell the variation in color and weathering on each little piece. Now that it's all done, I get to try it on. This feels so cool! I cannot wait to hold a lightsaber in this thing. It really does look like droidy and robot-y and icky and oily, and I love it! I love that kind of stuff. I think it looks so cool. And I love making robot hands. I don't know why. They're just so fun. Robot hands are so much cooler than real hands. For the last touch of my costume, I decided that I wanted to be a zabrak. And being a zabrak means that I'm gonna need some horns. So lastly, I'm gonna make some horns out of Warbler. I'm just mushing up some Sculpey clay and I'm gonna sculpt my little horns. I decided to go for 2 different kinds of variations of horns. I did some bigger horns and 2 little horns. Once my horns were shaped exactly how I wanted them to look, I put them in the oven at 325 for about 10 to 15 minutes until the Sculpey was hard. Sculpey is pretty dense, and trying to stick these things onto my head would be really heavy and uncomfortable, and they might even fall off. To make them a little bit lighter, I'm gonna be making a skeleton around them with some Warbler. Warbler is light, thin, durable, and it can be sanded and painted, which is awesome. To tell you the truth, this is the first time I tried out Warbler, and I really liked it. I decided to wrap the Warbler right around the Sculpey to make a little outer skeleton. What I did forget is that Warbler has adhesive in it, which means it sticks to stuff. So my first try didn't go as planned. I knew that I needed something like Vaseline or some kind of oil that I could put on my inner piece just so that my outer skeleton of Warbler would come off of it easily. I did not have any Vaseline in my house, so embarrassingly, in a pinch, I went for some Pam cooking spray. And surprisingly enough, it did work. So for these 6 little horns, I used my Pam cooking spray as a release. So for this little project, I used Pam cooking spray as a mold release, but I do not suggest doing this, but it does work in a pinch. After the Warbler released from the Sculpey, they came out pretty well, and you see now they're hollow, much lighter, and they're gonna stick to my head much easier. Warbler is great, but it does have this surface that needs to be sanded. I went over the Warbler with my 220 grit sandpaper, filler primed it, sanded it, filler primed it, sanded it one more time, and then filler primed it one more time, and my horns were ready to be painted. For my base color, I mixed up some acrylic paint that was very similar to my skin tone and painted my Warbler horns. After my base coat was dry, I used a smaller paintbrush and some black acrylic paint and added some ridges and stripes up and down the horn just to make it look like it was made out of bone. If I do this again in the future, I would take a Dremel and very gently add ridges, but this technique worked pretty well. After the black was pretty much dry, I went in with my skin tone colored acrylic paint and some darker brown acrylic paint just to make everything look a little bit more natural. I put some cotton balls inside of the horns and glued them to the bottom so I would have a way to stick these horns onto my head with Prozade. I just dabbed some Prozade on the cotton and around the edges and stuck them right to my head where I needed them to be. For 2 of the horns, I just glued some hair clips onto the bottom so I'd be able to clip them right into my hair. And now that my horns and my hand are all done, I'm ready to put everything on. Hi everybody, it's me Zombie and I have Adam here with me. We are in our Jedi costumes and we are about to go to the Rogue One premiere. I have my zabrak makeup on. Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
For reals.
I want to be a cool tattoo face guy next time.
Yeah? You like my horns?
I do.
Oh,
They're
very
cute.
nice. I think they're cute too.
I can't believe we found a real lightsaber. It looks
wow!
so good on video.
Yeah, it does. It really does look great. Oh my gosh, are you excited?
We need to go.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
too excited. Let's go.
Okay, yeah, we're late. We need to go. Let's go. Ah! We're here! Let's make them touch. You're touching.
Not supposed to do that normally.
We are back home from Rogue One.
I don't ever want to turn this lightsaber off because it looks so good on
No,
camera.
it looks amazing. We're gonna go be Jedis now. What do Jedis do after they...
This.
Yeah, let's go do that. Why are there so much buttons on here?
Lightsabers are complicated.
You're gonna run out of what is it called? Something
Jedi
crystal?
juice. I'm gonna run out of the Jedi crystals.
Stuck it right there.
Oh, it is?
Slide it down. It's over.
It's gone. Bye.